Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining me. This is the weekly news update, December 11th, 2024, 2 weeks till Christmas. I'm Tanya Gaw. I'm the founder of Action for Canada, and I've got a really good lineup tonight of news reports. It's amazing that it is already the end of the year. I just finished the Empower Hour, where I myself had provided the Action for Canada 2024 Year in Review. That a video will be available in the description, and I really want to encourage you to watch it, and then please share it. Please, in all of our videos, give us a thumbs up. It is incredibly important that you subscribe to Rumble and join Action for Canada's channel. And as I says, you really help us by giving us a thumbs up and improving our algorithms, because we've got individuals out there who are still trying to sabotage us and give us the thumbs downs. And we're having a really hard time getting our information and our campaigns out to the masses. If it has to do with our chapter leaders, as I've mentioned in the past, we always meet with them every single Monday. They get it firsthand, and they personally provide that information to their communities. And this is why I so terribly want in 2025 for us to double our chapters, because the community work is absolutely critical and essential to winning this war. And if you listen to, which I hope you will, the Empower Hour and the amazing review, you will understand as well the mass amount of work that we're doing, the extent of it, and how we are effectively turning around things at the community level. So, and if you're here for the first time, I just always love to provide the map and show you that, if this is encouraging, I hope it's encouraging you to see all of those maple leafs, because they represent an Action for Canada chapter. This map is always changing a little. Sometimes chapter leaders are having to step down for various reasons. As I mentioned previously, we've had a couple who have had passed away this year, which was obviously difficult. And so we look forward to individuals within those communities also stepping up. So please consider in the new year putting in a request to have one of our people call you and reach out if you're considering being a chapter leader. You just need to join. Click on the A4C chapters right here. It'll bring you to this page, and then you can just review. And then right here, if you want to connect with a local chapter, you do it here. But if you want to see what's involved in being a chapter leader, you can just click on the information in this area. And then when you apply, it doesn't mean that you're committed to be a chapter leader. Just one of our team members will reach out to you, answer any of your questions, and see if you would be a good fit. And you have tons of support coming not only from the national team, but we've got provincial leaders to support you. And our chapter leaders also help one another and also work together. So it's not something where you would join and you're all alone. All right, this is just a look at the weekly news update. This was a collage that we created. This was the page that went out this week, just an overview of all the incredible work that Action for Canada has done this year. And a big, huge thank you to all of our donors, to everybody that has supported us through prayer, to everyone that has actually gotten out there and done the calls to action and really committed in their communities to show up at the school board meetings and the city council meetings and wherever else that your presence was needed to support individuals. Like the emo mayor, which I'll be reporting on. I'll be giving a little bit of an update. The emo mayor who ended up being instructed by the Ontario Human Rights Tribunal to pay a NGO radical LGBTQ group $15,000 because they chose in a democratic election at the city council meeting not to support Pride Month or raise the flag. All right. These people aren't about inclusivity. They're certainly not about respecting individuals who don't align with their ideologies. Remember that these are ideologies. These are someone else's ideas. And only in communist countries do you expect people, do you demand that they accept ideologies that go outside of your own personal convictions and belief systems. So it's a pretty big battle going on. We continue to fight at all levels. We're not afraid of being politically correct. We take on the controversial issues because we know that's what's best for all Canadians involved. Even those who have immigrated to Canada, who are going to be pressing in on you to speak English in public. If you love this country, you can start by speaking English in public. You can start by sort of just putting your ideologies or your ideas from the country that you left behind you and fully integrating and embracing Canadian society, because your very freedoms are at risk if you don't. And you see what's happening with all these cultures invading and making their demands. So you know I'm right. So help us out by making sure that you integrate, assimilate, and like I said, please speak English or French, one of the two official languages in Canada. It really does matter, because what the government and the globalist agenda is to create a Tower of Babel. And that comes from the Bible, where all of a sudden all these languages, it was a different story, but I'm just saying everybody spoke different languages and departed because they couldn't understand. And so I don't think it's right, especially as well with the extremism rising up in this country. And I'm going to show you some pretty scary links on that as well, where I have no idea what people are saying around me. Are they extremists? Are they terrorists? Are they plotting something? Absolutely. You know what? If you live here, speak English. And you know what? I'm sure that there's already policy in Canada. It's just, if we actually, implemented the laws that are already here for us, we would have this all overturned so quickly. But we need a government that's willing to do that. All right, so this is a good example of if I were going to talk about Christianity under attack. I am not a Pope supporter. Many of you are not. I'm a little perplexed by Catholics. I know that they could say other popes were good and DTT, but there's been so much going on in the Catholic Church, and their support for the LGBTQ, their support for a one world religion. I know a lot of it's coming from a pope, but it's really throughout the Catholic Church, and it's through the Anglican Church, and it's through other churches and what was considered Protestant churches. We're seeing that the majority of Protestant pastors, regardless of all these different, what do you call that, of the Protestant church, like whether they're Baptist or Dan, help me out. It's all right. Just all the different denominations. That's what I was trying to think of. If you look at the Protestant church and all the different denominations as well that were shut down during COVID, and so there is no such word as denominations in the Bible. There's no such word as Catholicism in the Bible. There is a Bible-believing, Christ-centered church that we are to be focused on. And I believe that God is cleaning out the church, and that where man has stepped in, such as in the Catholic Church, God is exposing that man's design and him inserting himself and creating his policies that do not align with biblical principles has caused damage to the Catholic Church. The pastors and the denominations that came in with these man-made ideas has caused damage to the church, and it's all collapsing. And that's one of the reasons why Action for Canada has always said Action for Canada is a Christ-centered, Bible-believing organization, because we don't want man-made religion, man-made policies interfering with God's word. So that's where we're uncompromising. If God's word says you shall have no other gods before me, and you shall not make for yourself idols, and it also says that God's a jealous God, then by gum, We need to tear down all false idols in this nation and all false gods. We should have never opened the door to multiculturalism. It was in violation of the coronation oath. It's in violation of the Constitution. This is a Christian nation, and we need to get back to Christian principles. And that means respectfully, we'll be shutting down all the mosques, Islamic centers, and temples, because you can see that they've been radicalized. They're even having difficulties, and wherever there is a radicalist agenda, it needs to be shut down in this nation. So the Pope has... He never, I don't ever think he ups himself. He always, yeah, he does. It's always just one more. And so he ended up wrapping baby Jesus here in a keffiyeh. And of course, that's a Palestinian symbol that is anti-Christian. The Palestinians are not Christian. We do not serve the same God. And as far as I'm concerned, this is an abomination. And that the Catholic Church, all Catholics, should be outraged by this. And I, as a Christian, am outraged by this abomination. And when this man stands before the Lord, you know what? Justice will be served, and God have mercy on his soul. Okay, so now a couple of good news. I'll go through good news reports and other things, but isn't this amazing? Anti-vaxxer nurse who injected up to 8,600 elderly patients with salt water, like saline salt water, instead of COVID vaccine, walks free from court in Germany. Isn't that absolutely so she should? Amazing. And I pray that there were so many more medical professionals who did exactly this. Just God bless them. I was so happy to see this report. And alrighty, sometimes I have to refresh a page. The reason I'm bringing this up as well, again, this is amazing. Florida lawsuit seeks injunction to prohibit mRNA nanoparticle injections because they are bioweapons. They are actually in Florida, stating what Action for Canada had said from the very beginning, that this was a bioweapon. That is in our resources under COVID-19. You'll see the NOLs. You'll see the information that we have on these jabs. I mean, we were, raising the red flag as soon as these jabs were, prior to them even being sent out, through the medical professionals and into the arms of many unsuspecting and innocent citizens and children and pregnant women. I mean, it's just sickening. Absolutely, it's a bioweapon. And therefore, these individuals who are behind this, I mean, Trump is going to go after them. He's already made it very, very clear that these individuals are going to be tried for crimes against humanity, knowing how unsafe they were. All the FOIs that are coming out are proving that this information was, that this mRNA jab was meant to do serious harm. Okay, also in Northern Ireland, puberty blockers to be banned indefinitely in Northern Ireland. All right, abso-100-lutely. All puberty blockers, all of the mutilating surgeries, everything must be banned. There are so many states down in the US doing this, and you can bet when Trump comes in, I can foresee that's going to happen as well. I've mentioned before Christopher Rufo. I love him. He has been coming out ferociously against diversity, equity, and inclusion. And he had this report today. Many of you may not be aware of Daniel Penny, an officer who was convicted. It had to do with an individual that he came across on the subway. It led to this individual's death. And it has to do with, of course, the Black Lives Matter and this movement that you see how many individuals that were framed as victims because they were Black and they may have been shot by a police officer or whatever. They were arrested, and all of a sudden the victim card comes out and the Black Lives Matter. And this is a Marxist agenda. Black people are against this agenda. So, all right, it's not just me as a white Christian woman sitting here. This is an incredibly dangerous agenda This is a globally funded group. It is a Marxist group, a movement. They are behind the critical race theory, and they need to be completely shut down. And so this is, from what I'm hearing, is very good news as far as this decision as well. Listen very carefully. And the reason I brought this up after just talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, this is the poison that individuals like Jagmeet Singh, who is just a traitor to this country and has no business sitting in office. And as I've said here when I posted it, he should be immediately removed from office and investigated for committing treason by attempting to undermine our democracy. He is a racist who colludes with terrorists. So just let's hear what Jagmeet Singh had to say.
To be really blunt, I've seen a lot of older white men fail upwards again and again. And that is just going to continue unless we actually try to change things. So I fundamentally believe if you don't change things, you're going to have the same system. And the same system is going to benefit those that were already in power. So you have to fundamentally be
So just here again.
I've seen a lot of older white men fail upwards again and again.
Okay, I've seen a lot of old white men fail upwards. Yeah, Jagmeet Singh, tell me how India and Pakistan and your favorite homeland is coming. Oh, that's right. You don't have a homeland. You were actually born in Canada because your parents immigrated here. And you immigrated to a country that white European men developed. And we have always been very economically sound and free. And this was a good nation until individuals like yourself decided to get in government and destroy it. The Khalistani Sikhs aren't succeeding anywhere. And the Sikhism, when you go to Pakistan, there's constantly terrorism, violence, rapes en masse. So yeah, Jagmeet Singh, you're somebody to preach to Canadians about white privilege and all the wrong that these white men have done. And you know what? Always throughout history, even in Canada, we had prisons for a reason. White men commit crimes. But I'm telling you that when we cared enough to have Christians in government, regardless of the color of your skin, this country was doing very, very well without you. Thanks so much. You need to step down. And you need to turn yourself in. You have been surrounded by Khalistani Sikhs. You have infiltrated our government, and you, sir, need to be investigated and removed. All right. So then we go into this headline that says, days after worst ever election loss, longtime Nova Scotia Liberals say it's time to rebuild. And it just kind of kills me because I went down here. Reagan urged party members not to waste time licking your wounds and instead to work on a way to build the party from the 2 ridings it still controls. 2 ridings in all of Nova Scotia. She's missing the point. The Liberals' days are done. You're over. There is no way to rebuild this party. All right? You are woke. You are terrorist. You are destroying this nation single-handedly under the Liberal government. You have kept a terrorist as the leader of your party. And as far as I'm concerned, every Liberal leader should be investigated, tried for crimes against humanity, and for treason. Now, this next article, the headline is Trump calls Trudeau governor of the great state of Canada in latest social media jab. We know that Trudeau was recorded when Trump was president last time, and he was trying to have, underhandedly making slur statements about Trump, like as if Trudeau is the big man. Look he doesn't even sit up straight like a man. He is no match for Trump. And so, you know what? Trump has a very good memory. So they had a meeting, and for good fun. You know how Trump is. He's sarcastic, and he put a blast out there on social media that he calls Trudeau Governor Trudeau now. I just think it's funny. Do I think we should be the next state? No, I don't. I love Canada. We need to restore Canada. We're a beautiful country, and we're going to get things under control. But Trudeau has zero respect from any kind of legitimate leader. because those leaders see that he's destroyed our military, our police, he's destroyed this nation, and that he's a woke individual. So let's not be that kind of country in Canada. Let's be deliberate. This is what Trudeau his response is. So the reason I was bringing this up is because Trudeau thinks now that he's going to fight fire with fire and now hit the USA with tariffs. Like, he should be just apologizing, and what he should be doing is securing our border. That's what Trump wants. He wants our border secure and stop sending drugs. And of course, his commitment is the same to his southern border and the same announcement he's made with the Mexican government. So Trudeau comes back now and he says, let's not be that kind of country in Canada. Let's be deliberate about the choices we make if we want to stop fighting climate change, if we want to re-legalize assault-style weapons, if we want to put back into question women's rights. And the rhetoric that comes from out of his mouth, nothing ever makes sense, because here we are, and this is just a news report from last week. Liberal government adds hundreds of firearm models to list of banned weapons. I don't think Trudeau is hearing the message from Canadians. We are not giving up our guns, no matter what policy you put in place. Canadians have 100% right to bear firearms. We have a right to protect our families. And I'm going to show you, he's trying to disarm us while this is what's happening in our country. Illegal firearms found during traffic stop, 4 men arrested. For the majority, does that look like Canadians? Do these look like the white Europeans that built this nation? Or does this look like a group that are self-victimizing right now when we speak out and saying we're being invaded by people who are not coming here through legal means and not willing to swear on a Bible that they're going to uphold our Constitution and our Charter of Rights and Freedoms and integrate and assimilate? Those are the kind of individuals that Trudeau is bringing into Canada and then saying, oh, by the way, we're going to take away your guns, just like they did in Venezuela. Just, do you see what's going on in Britain right now? They have no firearms. They can't defend themselves against Muslims who are out there in the streets with machetes. Another news report, December 10th, 17 arrested in year-long Project Skyfall investigation into home invasions, armed robberies in the Greater Toronto Area. Don't you think it's a good idea that Trudeau would say, okay, legal firearms owners, you are registered, you go through a registration every single day, your name goes through a system to make sure all is good with you. You need to make sure that you have your firearms safely in your home in case what? In case there's an armed invasion. I can tell you that these armed invasions will stop pretty quickly when people understand you don't enter somebody's home. These are the 17 that were arrested. Do these look like European white Canadians who entered this country and built it and love this country and honor and value this country? Are the white Europeans that everybody is smearing, including Jagmeet Singh, including Trudeau, including Mark Millen, including the rest of them, do these look like the individuals who fought for the freedoms for Canada? 17 arrests, and they want to take away your guns. Quebec man sentenced for smuggling over 1,000 fake identity documents from China. Okay, this is Jung-Hoon Lee, okay, Chinese infiltrator that came into Canada, probably didn't even immigrate here properly. Now, I have somebody on the inside in immigration telling me that they have to approve 100 migrants a week. We've had Tom Quiggin on the show who used to work in immigration and do the vetting. It was 200 to 300 per year. And they very specifically asked, oh, okay, you're from Iran? Oh, you went to that school? What road did you take getting from your home to the school? If they couldn't answer, they got denied. Okay, they're not willing to integrate and assimilate, and they want to take an oath on the Quran. I'm sorry, but you don't enter this nation. You're not a good match. That's good common sense. We can't go to their countries and do anything otherwise. So don't call me a racist for saying I am going to defend this country. I have best friends and Chinese people, Filipino people who are all Christians, and they feel the same way I do about this country. They are fearful that our Judeo-Christian principles are absolutely at risk of being eradicated. And that's the war. So why would we be silent? Okay, let's look at this. Alleged West End Edmonton Mall shooter named one of Canada's 25 most wanted. I was listening on Remembrance Day to a Black woman. She just, as that happens to be, if people want to talk about the color of people's skin, let's do it. And she was making an announcement at the Toronto Remembrance Day hearing. And she goes into some Black slave trade that her ancestors came to Canada on. And I'm like, excuse me? That has not been a slave trade here in Canada. And it was Wilberforce, a white Christian man who stopped slavery. And it's the Muslims who were huge in the slave industry. And why in 2024 is a Black woman standing in Toronto talking about white colonialism and then talking about slave trade in 2024? Do you see what's happening here? It's enough of the victimhood. The only people that care about the color of everybody's skin is these radical, woke population with an agenda. And we are definitely going to be calling this out. Enough of it. Christians don't care about the color of each other's skin. You know, when I meet somebody at the store, I can tell just by the Holy Spirit of God in us, the goodness of them, I can tell somebody's a Christian. There's just a difference. There's a difference in the way they conduct themselves. And that's what we're called biblically to do, right? To be light in the darkness. But don't tell me to accept darkness, and don't tell me there's not a difference between light and darkness. And I'm not talking about the color of somebody's skin right now. Okay, this is the gem I've been telling you about for quite a while. Trial scheduled for man charged with terrorism in Surrey bus stabbing. Fraser Highway, this is not too far from my home. And it's not just a stabbing, and I don't appreciate them giving it that title. This is a terrorist. So Abdul Aziz Kawam was charged when attempting to commit murder in association with a terrorist group, assault causing bodily harm in association with a terrorist group, aggravated assault in association with a terrorist group, and assault with a weapon in association with a terrorist group. Now look at the title again. Okay, scheduled for man charged with terrorism. Well, it does say terrorism in Surrey bus stabbing, but the extent of it, okay, he yelled Allah Akbar and slit the guy's throat. Okay, why are these people in Canada? We have a right to call this out. Now, let's hear what Trump has to say. This is incredible what he has to say about the, well, I'll just play it.
There can be no coexistence with this violence. There can be no tolerating it, no accepting it, no excusing it, and no ignoring it. Every time a terrorist murders an innocent person and falsely invokes the name of God, it should be an insult to every person of faith. Terrorists do not worship God. They worship death. If we do not act against this organized terror, then we know what will happen. Terrorism's devastation of life will continue to spread if we do not stand in uniform condemnation of this killing. Then not only will we be judged by our people, but we will be judged by God.
Okay, so it has to be recognized that these individuals nowhere in the world does Islam live at peace with anybody. And we just got to come out and say it. If people are offended by this, it's not our problem. You've come to Canada. This is a Christian nation. Your ideologies do not align with Canadian ideologies and will not be forced to accept them any longer. This is coming to an end. And I'm praying that Trump is going to have a huge impact, because we're at risk with the Islamic associations that have been approved by the government to either have charitable status or be a not-for-profit organization who are tied to extremism. And so this has been going on for many years. And it has been exposed many, many times, but especially the Muslim Association of Canada. And here they are again. And CRA alleges Muslim Association of Canada has radical links. So I'm going to just keep moving along. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because between the US and Canada, all Western nations are facing this. They should have never allowed Islam one minuscule of an opportunity or a right to set up a mosque, an Islamic center, anything or an organization to be approved in this nation. And you will see, as you become more educated on this, that every single one of these organizations, the majority of them anyways, have funding from overseas. They fund terrorism, and it's radical and out of control as soon as the Muslim population gets to a certain percent. I'm just going to play a few minutes of this video. You will hear about CAIR, C-A-I-R, in the United States, and I believe it's the NCCM in Canada that is an arm of CAIR in the United States. There's this, once a name ends up being tied to some sort of terrorism, they end up coming in under a different name, and then after a while, somebody discovers that, you know, there's a tie to the original organization that was tied to terrorism, and it's a never-ending cycle of always dealing with terrorism funding, radicalism. It needs to be eradicated from Western nations. What they want to do in the Middle East, fill your boots, but we need to fight for and protect Canada. That's where our interest lies. So we'll just listen to a few minutes of what's happening in the United States. Bridget Gabriel will be speaking, who is an authority on this, of course, because she came through from Lebanon, which she was born and raised pre-regime, coming into Lebanon and taking over where she lived for 7 years in a bomb shelter. So she understands all of the players. I'll be playing a couple of videos from her tonight.
On American Islamic relations, and we're definitely not alone in questioning the group's legitimacy and its ties to Hamas. Now, CAIR will now have to open its financial books after a former employee accused them of being funded by a foreign government, foreign governments, and terrorists. Judge David Schultz ruled last week that CAIR's donors are permissible discovery in former chapter leader Lori Soroya's defamation lawsuit. Now, Soraya filed that complaint earlier this year after CAIR dropped its own defamation lawsuit against her for allegedly implying CAIR took money from terrorist organizations. Now, Soraya's lawyer called the ruling the mother of all legal boomerangs, referring to how the defamation lawsuit backfired on CAIR itself. Now, for more on this, I want to bring in and welcome to our show, Brigitte Gabriel. She's a national security analyst, NYT bestselling author, and the chairman of actforamerica.org. Her latest book, you see there, Rise, in Defense of Judeo-Christian Values and Freedoms. Brigitte, as always, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. You know, I saw this article come down and I was like, I have to talk to Brigitte about this. What do you make of this development in this, latest lawsuit against CAIR? So the group reportedly dropped its own lawsuit against the former employee. This was in 2022. Because they didn't want to reveal the names of the donors, but now they're going to have to open their financials in her defamation lawsuit against them.
Karma is so sweet. And thank you for reaching out to me. You know, I have been fighting CAIR and my organization, Act for America, actforamerica.org. We've been trying to blow the whistle on CAIR for the last 20 years and no one would listen. The reason why CAIR was founded was a cover-up for the Islamic Association for Palestine, where the United States government, during the Holy Land Foundation trial, handed down 108 guilty verdict to Muslim American organization and Muslim American raising money in the United States to support terrorism. CAIR was an unindicted co-conspirator. And the reason why CAIR was an unindicted co-conspirator is because CAIR was birthed out of the Islamic Association for Palestine, which was Hamas's infrastructure in the United States. After the FBI was monitoring money being funneled to Hamas from America, the leaders of that organization, Islamic Association for Palestine, held a meeting in Philadelphia in a secret hotel room that the FBI wiretapped. This is when the FBI used to actually do real work. And that's when they recorded how the founders and the board members of the Islamic Association for Palestine, Hamas's infrastructure in the United States, decided to create an organization and named it as CAIR, the Council on American Islamic Relations. And the president of the Islamic Association for Palestine, Omar Ahmed, became the founder of CAIR, and the director of PR, Nihad Awad, became the executive director of CAIR. So CAIR has a long line of association with terrorist organizations overseas, even receiving money from foreign governments. We knew that all along. And the people and the person and the people that covered up for CARE and protected them was President Obama and Eric Holder, his attorney general.
Yeah, you bring up something interesting.
So I just wanted you to hear how within Canada and the United States, it's no different. The Islamists have these arms. It's like this web of extremism and one organization pulling from the other, whether it's the Iranian Revolutionary Guard here in Canada or ties to the Muslim Brotherhood, Hezbollah, Hamas. It doesn't matter which Islamic group it is, there are always ties to extremism. And this is very concerning as Justin Trudeau has opened the doors very wide. I'm reporting on this every single week. We have, information on Islamic Center and Education Center who are tied to the IRGC, who have received funding right here in Canada, right presently today. ISIS cells that are in Calgary and Edmonton, and the government and the police know about this, and they're monitoring them instead of shutting them down. We need a serious leader running this government who is going to shut down these organizations, deport any of these individuals, the imams running these mosques. A lot of Muslims don't even want to or don't take the time to go to the mosques because they as well have said that they are terrorist cells. Why are we putting up with this in our country? And as the population grows, this problem is going to become irreversible. And I am so grateful for Bridget Gabriel and the way she can articulate and name names and put all of these different groups together, because we need people like this. An individual in Canada who can do that is Tom Quiggin. He's a former terrorism expert who's still an expert, and Trudeau should be having him as an advisor. But instead, Trudeau is aligning with the terrorists and destroying this nation, putting all of our lives and well-being at risk while telling us to give up our guns. It just makes no sense at all. So again, under current issues, look up Radical Islam here. You'll see the reports that I wrote. This I wrote back in 2018, launched it in 2019. And it actually goes through the explanatory memorandum that was used in the lawsuit down in the States that she was referring to with the co-conspirators, where CARE was named as one of those. It's a remarkable document. It will give you a real eye-opener to where we are at in Canada. Okay, so I'm just now taking this shift to finances. When Trudeau was, talking and the Nova Scotia election resulted in this massive worst loss ever for the Liberal Party. It's like, get used to it. All right, we got to work hard in all those ridings. But, they're like, oh, we got to rebuild the party. Well, how do Canadians feel? I came across this just by chance the other day, and this individual has put some incredible information on here. It says the Canadian federal government doles out $102 billion per year, a quarter of the total budget, in an opaque slush fund titled Other Transfer Payments. Let that sink in. $102 billion. This money is tax-free, and only one list exists online, and it's hard to find. So then when I started to go down, they have done all of this research on the information that's on the website, and other individuals were then getting involved. I won't go into it all now. I would encourage you yourself to look it up. But I mean, this is so criminal. Canadians can hardly put food on the table. We're paying for this mass immigration. Migrants are here, or fake refugees, and they're getting paid more than our elderly who can barely make ends meet. Our own, white privileged Canadians are living on the street or in campers. We've got young people who have babies and can only live in a one-bedroom suite for nearly $1,800 a month. Yeah, you tell me about how the Liberal government thinks they're going to rebuild that party. It needs to be annihilated. These are criminals. They belong in jail. This was an interesting post. This is back from 2020, so you can imagine that the number is higher now. But religion and its services contribute $67.5 billion to the Canadian economy. And yet Trudeau is persecuting Christians across this nation. Do you understand? I was talking about the church earlier and how the church is being cleaned up from these fake pastors standing in the pulpit and not actually preaching the gospel and the word of God, because if he was, they'd be saying, you have an obligation to vote, and we should be raising up elected officials from within our church. And if they lose their charitable status, so be it, because nowhere in the Bible does it say that churches should receive charitable status, because that's just another control arm of the government. So do you see the cleaning up here? But $67.5 billion means that Canadians could overturn any election and get even somebody like Maxime Bernier in, or Rod Taylor from the Christian Heritage Party, if we work together in an organized fashion to make this happen. We have buying power, my friends. We have buying power, and we got to use it. So it's amazing. So here, $3.5 billion in Liberals' COVID business loans went to ineligible recipients, the Auditor General has just found out. Okay, the program doled out $49.1 billion in loans to nearly 900,000 small businesses. $3.5 billion in Liberal business loans went to ineligible recipients. And who knows if we'll ever see that money again. Were they really ineligible, or were these real names? And once they really dig into this, will they find out that it was just friends of the Liberal Party, or maybe Jagmeet Singh? You know, Trudeau and Jagmeet seem to have this love-hate relationship, but they're frenemies, and they're going to work together to destroy Canada, and they both belong in jail. So, Liberal Party and Liberal MP that lost in Nova Scotia, no, you can't rebuild that party, and Canadians need to see this information to make sure it's a good reminder that even if they replace Justin Trudeau strategically before the next election, they are globalists. They have an agenda. Don't be fooled by them. If you're an old school Liberal, that party is done. It's gone, never to be retrieved, not in 2025. So don't be fooled by it. Liberal MPs suggest party will drop Elections Canada Act amendment changing election date. Now, the reason I brought this up, I've reported on this before, is because I searched all over and I couldn't find if there was a decision, but Canadian taxpayers alluded in some report somebody sent me that they had now reneged, and they pulled back and said, no, we're not going to move forward with the amendment. They wanted to postpone the election by a week, so something like 34 or 40 MPs could get their pension. And because they know a lot of the Liberals are going to lose their seats, and NDP, they should all lose their seats, except for where there's mass immigration of foreigners. And then maybe some of these people will have a hope. But that's why we need these immigrants to understand, you know what? You love Canada. Don't vote for those people. Don't vote for the Liberal Party. Okay, so they're understanding that Canadians aren't happy with them. This is a real interesting one that I learned as well. The Canadian government, the Liberal government, is creating a memorial to the victims of communism. Canada, a land of refuge. Let that one sink in again. Like these are moments where I'm going through research and stuff where it's not funny, but I burst out laughing in that you're unbelievable kind of way. So a land of refugee will recognize Canada's international role as a place of refuge. Sorry, I meant to say refuge for people fleeing injustice and persecution, and honor the millions who suffered under communist regimes. Well, what do you call what Justin Trudeau is doing? He's driven us into the bottom of the G7. The debt is, over $1 trillion. I mean, lies, pandering, lies, more money being spent by the money tree that doesn't exist, the monopoly money. We'll just call it what it is, monopoly money. And this is why we're really cautioning Canadians that if you have cash, if you can buy some silver, do that. Go through Steve Merrill. You can find it on our homepage to get a hold of him to buy some precious metals, because when this goes down, we want you to have something to be able to buy groceries with and take care of your bills. This is utter nonsense. Weaponizing human rights tribunals. Okay, so I wanted this headline here But it does say, if adopted, Bill C-63 could unleash a wave of hate speech complaints that persecute and prosecute citizens, businesses, or organizations while stifling online expression. I saw an amazing clip from Trump today, and I'm not saying I'm a huge supporter of Trump or not supporter of Trump. I like what's going down on the United States. We'll see if they actually implement all of this. And he had said he is coming after the censorship cult. He's going to be cleaning this out. YouTube has apparently had a U-turn, and they're apparently possibly stopping censoring people. Well, Trudeau is trying to full steam ahead with it. And it would mean somebody like myself, who has reported on radical sex activists, drag queens who shouldn't be around children, the radical extremists who are coming into Canada. They can apparently go backwards on this and retrace my steps and charge me with something that I said a year ago. Where in history in Canada would you ever hear about something like that happening? It's ludicrous. I have the freedom of speech. I have the freedom to do everything that I've reported on. And it is essential to our freedoms in this country. We will continue to fight for that, and we will refuse it. Even if the radical Liberal government tries to pass this along with traitor Jagmeet Singh before the next election. And the reason we have, I talked last week, you might have been hearing about the town of Emo, it's called Emo in Ontario, where the mayor and city council had a vote, and it was 3-2 not to celebrate Pride Month or put a flag up. As it turns out, they didn't even have a flagpole to put the flag up, but it didn't stop the local radical nasty LGBTQ group from taking the township and filing a complaint before the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario. That has resulted in the tribunal. So, statement on McQuaker's refusal. So I've got this a little bit backwards here, but that resulted in the mayor and the township being ordered to pay $15,000 to the Borderland Pride. Borderland Pride has with a vengeance gone after the mayor and the city council, even though it was a Democratic elected officials. There was a Democratic vote, and the vote was that there would be no celebration of Pride Month and that there'd be no flag in order to keep the spaces neutral, which is according to Supreme Court challenges. It should be standard all across the nation. If we want to put a cross up or have a Christian event, that's fine, because this is a Christian nation. But the LGBTQ and their ideology and these sex activists don't have a right to push their ideology on others. And people across the nation are standing up and saying that. One town, after another. They're choosing in Alberta, a couple of towns I've been reporting on have said no more pride walks, pride sidewalks. They're going to be the normal standard zebra pride walks, zebra crosswalks. And who has the money to spend on this? I don't want my taxpayers' money being spent on pride sidewalks. I don't support this. And so anyways, the tribunal, the woke Ontario Tribunal, rules in their favor. They tell the mayor and council that they have to pay $15,000. The mayor comes out and he says that he is refusing. The mayor says he refuses to be bullied or pay the fine for not flying the pride flag, because $10,000 of the $15,000 had to come from the township, and they ordered $5,000 to be paid by the mayor. Well, they take it to the next step, and the Pride organization, Borderland Pride, garnishes the $5,000 right from the mayor's bank account. Are we living in communist China? All right. So there was going to be a meeting this morning. We sent out an action last night to try to get as many people there. And I apologize, but I tried before coming on the show to get an update, like what announcement did the mayor make? Because Emo's mayor and council soon to decide if they or Borderland Pride are in charge. And isn't that the way this is going? It's like these people are bullies, and there is nowhere in the provincial human rights codes where these amendments were made to include gender expression and gender identity. Nowhere did it say that their rights trump our rights. Okay? And it certainly doesn't trump religious rights, because it's based on an ideology. It's not like a real tangible thing. It's somebody's idea. And so you can't push somebody's idea on another person. It's illegal. It's unlawful. And so they're asserting themselves. And I think once I find out if this mayor is in need of fundraising or support, depending on who their lawyers are, maybe they already have it all lined up. I was working to get a lawyer I'm working with in contact with them for the last week. So this is an important battle to win. Democracy spoke, and democracy must win. And these radical activists need to mind their place, and they need to be shut down. And already we heard that as soon as the new government starts making cuts to the budget, these NGO groups we need to stop all taxpayer funding to them. And they're in big trouble, and they know it because the majority of the population do not support them. And so the majority of them will go broke, and they're not going to have money for legal actions. And I look forward to that day. All right, I'm fairly much going to wrap up soon, but a few more minutes. I want to play this clip, and I thought it was very important. We've talked about DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, critical race theory, and the other woke ideologies going on in the schools. And I like these two gentlemen in the way they put this together.
An Ontario school board demands teachers believe Canada is founded on white supremacy and racism. Moreover, the materials advise teachers to adopt gender-neutral parenting practices and the use of neo-pronouns, fostering an environment that respects diverse gender identities. Quote, I am aware of my privilege. If I am a member of a dominant culture, I understand that I am not without power and privilege, and because of that, I may not be seen as quote-unquote unbiased or an ally.
For anyone who still believes that the education system is not completely compromised, please explain your way out of this. I've already been super clear that my kids will not be entering the public school system, but I think we're at the point that it's time to advocate for everyone to take their kids out of the system because this is rotten to its core.
If you want to understand this stuff, just go look at Mao's Cultural Revolution in China from 1966 to 1976. Teachers and professionals, like among many others, were constantly subjected to quote unquote struggle sessions, which were public humiliations where they were forced to confess their supposed class crimes and acknowledge their privileged status. These sessions.
Okay, so you can see like how crazy is this? And so when they're trying to race bait and they're trying to have us, like white supremacy, white colonialism, white privilege, and the poor victim, black class, or the poor victim, Indians or Sikhs or Muslims, etc. This is all part of a Marxist agenda. You know Trudeau's close ties with the Chinese and how he so respects, the communist agenda. So is it any surprise that he would be completely on board with implementing this Marxist agenda in Canada? The other thing I must remind you of is that the United Nations consists of a third Sharia compliant who support the Islamic agenda, and the other 2/3 is run by communists. It's the communist agenda. There is no country, I do not believe, sitting as a member state at the United Nations who is not involved, absolutely 100% bought into this. Any other nation would opt out. And you can see, I believe, I'm hoping and praying, for instance, that Donald Trump will start something new by 100% not only pulling out funding, but not being a member of the United Nations any longer as well. And I think then we'll start seeing other nations doing the same thing and maybe collaborating and having another group or organization to discuss world matters. And maybe it will be that they collaborate against the United Nations to shut them down completely because they're murdering people en masse. They're causing mass destruction, and this is an organization that brings chaos, death, and destruction wherever they go. All right, so the political LGBTQ page I had just brought up over any of the information that I was just going over with the film where they were talking about what's going on in the schools, because I just wanted to show you under current issues, you would come down right here and you can find that page to start taking action in your own communities against the trustees, serving elected officials, etc. We got to protect our kids. You can also find links there to our homeschooling, because I agree with him. We should be pulling all of our kids out of school. It is a dangerous place for them to be. They're being fully indoctrinated on multiple different levels. Okay. You probably heard about the Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad. He has received refuge in Russia, but he's been replaced by a terrorist. At first, I thought, yay, Syria and all these innocent, people that are living there will finally have their lives back. There was a lot of celebrating in the streets. And I contacted Majed right away, and he said, no, Tanya, the actual individual coming in is also a terrorist. He's been designated terrorist by the United States and other countries. And so we're going to have to really see what's taking place there. And again, because we hear these things in the mainstream media, we think something good is going on. Then you're going to hear about Israel, who has been attacking Syria and Lebanon, and you don't understand why. You're going to say, oh, there's that Netanyahu and those Jews that are out there attacking, a country that's finally going to be free, and they don't want to see it. They're in there annihilating them. No, not the case as well. I think it's incredibly important for us to understand the story, and no better person than Bridget to do that. So we'll just hear from her briefly.
So everyone is excited and hopeful about what happened in Syria over the weekend with the toppling of Assad. But who exactly are these people who toppled him, and who is their leader? This is all bad news, very bad news. We now have a combination of Al-Qaeda and ISIS basically controlling a country. Here's what you need to know. Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the rebel Islamic group that took over Syria and ousted Assad, are led by Abu Muhammad al-Julani. Al-Julani is an Al-Qaeda terrorist. He was the leader of Al-Qaeda in Iraq. In 2006, Julani was arrested by U.S. troops in Iraq and thrown in jail. That's where he met the head and founder of ISIS, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. In 2011, al-Baghdadi sent Julani to Syria to start Jabhat al-Nusra. In 2012, it became a formidable front. In 2013, Baghdadi cut ties with Al-Qaeda and went to Syria to establish the Islamic State of Iraq and al-Sham, what is known as ISIS. ISIS wanted to absorb Julani's group, but he resisted, declaring his allegiance to Al-Qaeda. He did not want a global caliphate like ISIS. He just wanted an Islamic State within Syria. Al-Qaeda didn't do much to help him. So in 2016, he branched out on his own. His organization, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, had one goal: defeat Assad and topple the Syrian regime. He established within Syria a mini state controlled by him and under Sharia law in Idlib, a city with about 5 million people. They established a civilian front called the Syrian Salvation Government. They ruled like a state. They had a prime minister and a government department. After the end of ISIS by Trump, Julani tried to change his image as a moderate ruler who supports order. But those who lived under his rule accused him of silencing opposition, targeting journalists, and imposing harsh restrictions. He ruled like the Taliban ruled in Afghanistan. He is a dangerous militant jihadi. Julani is not his original name. His original name is Ahmad Hussein al-Shara. He adopted the name Julani because he wanted to show his intentions of what he wants to do, which is liberate al-Sham. Al-Sham is the Islamic name of Syria, which not only includes Syria, but also Lebanon, Jordan, and Israel.
Okay, so just even hearing that, do you understand now that the ground that he wants to cover is as well Lebanon and Israel, not just Syria? There is a never ending to these terrorists and the corruption. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention. It's a horrible situation that goes on in Muslim nations, and we're not going to cover it up and say, you know, there's the moderate Muslims, non-Muslims. Bridget is one of those people that recognize, yeah, there's very nice people living in all these nations, but they're not getting it. They are not connecting Islam to the constant onslaught of terrorism and oppression that everybody in every Islamic nation lives under. And so we cannot allow this to come to the West. We will not allow this to come to the West. We have to stop it. I just wanted to show you what's going on in Germany. I'll just turn the volume off. The day that this happened in Syria, this took place in a German market. The Syrians, the Muslims, thousands of them came through the German Christian market and absolutely took it over. Some are saying Germany is done, but there's a small window of opportunity because Germany has finally voted in a new government. Are you a little bit terrified yet of what Islam poses and what their intentions are? I can't express to you enough that you've seen the Palestinians. It's not just Palestinians, it's Syrians, it's Iranians, it's Muslims out on our streets. And this is Canada. And I can't raise the red flag enough to tell you, you cannot be silent. And we need to make this one a number one election issue to completely shut down Islam in Canada. There is no other choice. And it is not to offend those lovely moderate Muslim people, because I know some of those people, but they must come to the point to understand we will never be able to know who for sure is, a radical Islamists, because they come in suits. They come quietly as your neighbor until they are high enough in population, then they can do exactly what they're doing now. We need a strong government that is going to deport, that is going to make it very uncomfortable for Islamists to live in Canada, because they will no longer have a mosque, they will no longer have Islamic schools, and they will no longer have Islamic centers or Khalistani Sikh temples, etc., etc. The radicalism of Canada must stop. And the reason I say that these Islamists must, with a capital M-U-S-T, must be removed from government is over people like this, where MP Mohammed ended up getting into and elected into the UK government as an MP, and just listen for a minute to what he has to say. It's shocking.
This is a highly sensitive issue, and in discussing it, we should try to step into the shoes of those who perhaps are not from the same culture as ours, to better understand why the practice continues to be so widespread. An estimated 35 to 50% of all sub-Saharan African populations either prefer or accept cousin marriages, and it is extremely common in the Middle East and in South Asia. The reason the practice is...
Just in case you didn't hear it, he said cousin marriages, incest. And when he says our culture, he is an MP in the UK, but you see where his loyalties are. And every elected official that is Muslim or Sikh in Canada have proven that they are not talking about our culture as Canadian culture or our culture as UK or British culture. They are talking about their homeland culture. There is no other country as daft as us in the West who have allowed these people to infiltrate, and we need to make this right. So I'll just continue to play for a little longer.
So common is that ordinary people see family intermarriage overall as something that is very positive, something that helps build family bonds and helps put families on a more secure...
Sorry, but helps to build family bonds, right?
...financial foothold. However, as is well documented, it is not without health risks for the children of those relationships, some of whom will be born out of wedlock.
Okay, I'll just stop there. You can imagine that will be born out of wedlock. These are women that are being, in my mind, that are being raped. So better for them to marry their cousin that raped them, than have a child out of wedlock. This is disgraceful. These men are sitting there on their hands, and that's why I said there's been a massive campaign to emasculate the men in the West for such a day as this, and we need to turn this around. There should have been outrage in there. This man, they should have brought the law, but we know that the UK and Britain have been captured by globalists, and Germany is up for a re-election. There's hope. France, there's been a non-confidence vote. I reported on that last week. There's hope for them. If Marine Le Pen, I pray that Marine Le Pen will get in, that a re-election will be called, because her number one issue is immigration, and they will clean this up. And we as Canadians can no longer close our eyes to this or ignore it. We've been, like Bridget Gabriel said about the CARE, she says, we've been for 20 years raising the red flag and reporting on CARE, how they're tied to Islamic funding. We've got the same problem in Canada, and we cannot be silent. We got to be ferocious as lions. This is our country. Our founding fathers, our fathers of Confederation gifted us with this nation, and we are not going to sit back and allow political correctness to silence us. So I sure hope you're with me. Again, I ask that you would find Stop Mass Immigration Demand Moratorium, sign this petition, get on board with us. Action for Canada, this is going to be a number one issue as well going into 2025. We are going to focus on immigration. We are going to continue to push for a moratorium, and we are going to continue to push for those 4.9 illegals that are in Canada right now to be deported. And we're going to fight for our Canada and the freedom and democracy and the beautiful sovereignty that we have as a nation. We have a right and we have a duty to do that. So again, if our work at Action for Canada is important to you, if you believe in us, then please become a monthly donor. Please commit to that. I know that times are tough, so even if it's $10, but if you're a month or a $10 one-time gift, whatever it is, every single penny is put forward towards fighting this battle on behalf of every Canadian and securing it for the future generations. Anyways, thank you so much. I just want to tell you again my gratitude towards all of you for your prayers, your financial supports, your taking action when we put a call to action out, and your involvement in your community. I want to announce as well, next week will be the Christmas service, our annual Christmas service. Dan has put a lot of thought into this and his message. You will be blessed by it, and we're going to have a little bit of Christmas music. We aren't doing the Christmas sweater contest this year. Our team's a little worn out and we want to just focus on the true meaning of the season. And of course, that is the birth of Jesus Christ, the Lord and Savior of the world. And it will be a message that will bless you. We always put out a Christmas message as well to wish you a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And we will be including the recording in that message after we've recorded this. So I just want you to know, in other words, what I'm saying, if you can't make it on the night of the Christmas service, we will have a recording and we will be sending out to the masses. All right, the Bible verses for today. I kind of saw this one when I was online. I thought that's kind of cute. I feel like that sometimes. It says in Galatians 4:16, "Am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth?" And when you think about that, right, like I've, as Action for Canada has come out on the front line of some of these issues, as I've mentioned, even Christians will come back and give me a hard time because of their lack of knowledge in these areas. And so my prayer is that indeed they will wake up and they will understand that I'm not a troublemaker. I am a truth. I prevail. What is it? We prevail the truth prevailer. We are always proclaiming the truth. So I'm not a troublemaker. I'm out there proclaiming the truth. The next verse is from Hosea 4:6. And as I was just saying, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. In Proverbs, many verses say that wisdom, knowledge, patience, understanding, discernment, all of these things are better than gold and jewels and fine treasures. And you can see in this day how incredible we need knowledge in order to decipher the good from the bad and the evil. And I just thank the Lord that He has blessed me with the ability to be able to discern quickly and to have wisdom and knowledge and understanding. And it is literally because I pray for those things, and Proverbs says to pray for them. So if you're lacking wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, pray for them and the Lord will give it to you abundantly. It's an absolutely amazing gift to have. And then finally, Ephesians 5:11 says, "Take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them." And Action for Canada and the team are here to expose the dirty deeds of darkness in order for the light to shine brightly and for this nation to get through this very dark time into a future that we pray will be restorative. And I'm going to be a bit real with those. We'll edit this little part out because I know some of you, those that show up on the Wednesday night, you're so faithful and I love you so much. But this is a big journey. This is a big journey and a lot of hard work for our team. And we work around the clock in order to get the results that we are. And it can be exhausting. We work through it even when we're not feeling well. And we feel like the whole world is against us. And then our team is amazing and we can reach out to one another and say, hey, I'm having a rough day. And we'll get together and we'll pray, or they will pray and ordain changes. And so, just what I'm saying is the power of prayer is so amazing. And so I know that I've asked for donations and financial support, but you will truly never know how grateful we are for your prayers. Those are one of the richest blessings that we have. So for the end of the evening here, I just want to say, God bless you. And from my bottom of my heart, my prayer is that God will bless Canada. All right. Amen. Thank you.
Do you want to look great and protect your rights? Join Action for Canada with our stylish protective gear. Our slim fit women's t-shirts are like a second skin, giving you the power to tackle any challenge. Made from a super soft blend of 90% cotton and 10% polyester, it's perfect for your everyday heroes that want to tell the world that they have had enough. Our men's t-shirts are like your everyday armor. Same quality, same comfort, and designed to keep your heroic look intact. And if you need extra protection, our mid-weight hoodies are here to save the day. With a pre-shrunk blend of 60% cotton and 40% polyester, these hoodies are your trusty sidekick against the cold. Plus, the pouch pocket is perfect for storing snacks because every hero needs their fuel. Deflect negativity with our 11-ounce ceramic mugs. They're dishwasher and microwave safe and perfect for holding your favorite beverage or your morning dose of justice. Our 100% cotton canvas shopping totes with double carry handles and prints on both sides. These totes can carry your groceries and your mission to save the planet. Stay warm and stylish with our form-fitting toques. Perfect for winter adventures. Made from acrylic and polyester, they fit most sizes with an adjustable cuff, keeping your brain warm for all those brilliant ideas. And don't forget our 6-panel structured caps, designed to protect your head from too many UV rays or bad hair days. Every purchase helps support our movement to protect Canadian rights. Visit Action for Canada now and gear up for the fight, so together we can protect what matters most and help make a difference.
Tanya Gaw. That's what I've got to say. Look at this crowd. I'm going to thank God and God alone for the ground that I'm standing on. I'm going to thank our founding fathers for giving their lives and sacrificing so much for our freedom. And I'm calling on you today, don't put them to shame. Don't waste what they did. We have guaranteed rights in this country. We are putting chapters across the nation. We are going to be in every town and every city, and we are going to build communities within these communities of like-minded people who are actually going to care for one another again and love on each other and give each other the help when they're down. We are going to use the teams and the people that build within chapters to support our businesses. The government's actions are completely 100% unlawful. Judgment will again be found on justice, and those with virtuous hearts will pursue it. You have a virtuous heart if you are here today pursuing freedom and righteousness. And then verse 23 comes along with a promise. God says he will turn the sins of evil people back on them. He will destroy them for their sins. I take great comfort in that because I serve a mighty living God who has allowed us to go through this season of discomfort because we as a nation had turned our backs on him and we need to get right. So I am just going to thank you so much. I'm going to say God bless you and God bless Canada.
But together they can't even try.